Greetings, Tony from Old River Hard Goods. Since it's getting nice out this week, I decided to do the intro and ending sections for this week's video out here on my morning woods walk. And the subject, as you saw from the title screen, is restoring a Stanley No. 151 Spokeshave. And yeah, I know there's a bunch of these type videos out there. Heck, back in 2020 when everybody was locked down on COVID, a whole bunch of folks suddenly became Stanley restoration experts and decided to video it. Well, I've been doing this, it'll be 29 years as of next month. I've got well over 3,000 Stanley planes and Spokeshaves and other tools that I've restored to my credit, so I guess I'm called what you would call a professional on the subject. So hopefully I got some new information to add to it. And there's also some great flea market segments coming up at the end, so be sure to stick around for that. So sit back and enjoy. One of the tools that you will see that I picked up in this week's flea market segment is this Stanley No. 151 adjustable Spokeshave. As you can tell, the Japanning is worn. It's got some patina, but the cap and blade are fairly good. Somebody did add a couple of extra little holes on the handles for some reason. Not sure why, but flip it over. The sole has some wear or was intentionally rounded slightly. You do see that from time to time. These guys is critical that the screws work. That post is a little loose. Both posts are a little loose, so we'll have to see what's going on with that once I take it apart. But first step with restoring one of these guys, of course, is to take the whole thing apart. So here we go. Well, here we have it disassembled. While the posts wiggle a little, they are still captive in there, so I'm not going to mess with that too much. Normally, if they do unscrew, I'll mix up a little epoxy, clean the threads off, and stuff them back in. That is a common problem with these guys. But you can see there's some patina here. So now it's time. Take it over to the magic wheel and do some shining up. Okay, here we have it all cleaned up, so to speak. I use a brass parts brush here to dust off the screws a bit. They've got some dings, but they're going to get oiled once this thing's all done anyway, so I'll take care of that. The blade's fairly good, no real carnage on the edge, cutting area other than some light scuffs. Cap also came out pretty good. There's a little unevenness on the bottom, but that's just how it was made. And unlike the chip breaker on a plane, the cap does nothing more than just hold the blade in place, so it's not critical that be perfect. And of course the screws all cleaned up pretty well. So time to move on to the next step. Of course, the next step is to wipe the body down good with paint thinner. Now, some folks will try and strip all the finish off, but I don't really find that necessary. I do disclose that the item has been refinished, unlike some people, but get down on the inside here where there's some crud. Loosen that up. You can see paper towel's getting dirty, so flip it over to a clean spot. More crud coming off. This guy wasn't so much rusty as it was just kind of grimy. But hey, it was a working tool. That's what we're going to get it back to. Still more grime coming off of it. Now, you can use rubbing alcohol for this as well. Some folks prefer that, and I do use that on some things that I'm painting, but for this I find the paint thinner does a better job of getting rid of oil, grease, and grime, and that's what we want. Nice, good working surface so that the paint can adhere. Alright, well that's fairly clean. Now we're just going to wipe it down with another clean paper towel. And there's still a little junk coming off of it, but most of it's gone, so the paint should stick without too much problem. And let it sit for a few minutes, and then we'll do the final preps for getting it ready to paint. Now I should add that if this thing had been really, really greasy or grimy, I probably would have taken it back to the loo, as our British friends like to call it. Wiped it down with some laundry detergent, let that sit on it for a minute or so, and then washed it off good under very hot tap water, and then dried it thoroughly before hitting it with the stripper. Sometimes they just get all gumped up like that. I have what should be a really nice Miller Falls number 6 size plane. It's still in the original box, all the box is beat. Swear to God, somebody used this plane one time, dumped a half a can of motor oil all over it, and then there it's sat for 50, 60 years, and I haven't found any way to get that stuff off without destroying the finish, so one of these days we'll tackle it. But anyways, okay, so the first thing we're going to do, of course, is mask off the sole. And I ain't fussy about tape I use. I picked this stuff up cheap. My one friend at the flea market, nice older guy, and he's not getting rich, but I try to help him out every chance I can. Razor knife to trim around the edges a bit. And obviously this is a little awkward trying to do this for the camera so you guys can see. Use this piece of leftover to cover up those screw threads a bit. Yeah, I need a little more, but I don't want paint getting down on the threads. And then the back side. I don't worry if I get a little paint on the sole, because I usually take it back and polish it up a bit once I'm done, just to catch any paint that's snuck back down in there. And with one like this where the sole is kind of worn, it's inevitable you're going to get a little bit of paint on it. But the important thing is at least most of it's covered. I'll push it back a little bit just to make sure I get the body properly covered. And another piece of tape for the other screw. And the last thing I do is take a little bit of paper towel or something else, like this. I don't know if you can see it. There we go. Roll it up and put it in the screw hole so we don't get the threads all gummed up with paint. Yeah, trim it off a bit. Again, it's not real critical that be perfect, but just to keep the paint out of the threads. And here we are, ready for paint time. Sorry about the vehicle noise, but we're up close to the front of the shop, which is where I do this kind of work. As you can notice, I've been doing some other kinds of painting up here, namely some camo work on my little toy, my AR-15, but hopefully this black's going to work. This is what I use, the Krylon Color Max Paint and Primer Indoor Outdoor Gloss Black. It's fairly close match to the Stanley finish, and it works pretty well. Again, I go light coat, and just let that sit and dry for a bit, and then I'll come back and do some more. Let's catch the handle ends. That's one spot I always seem to miss at the handle ends, and I wind up having to go back and touch up. So that's one side. All right, I'll let it dry for about 10-15 minutes. Unless you put it on real heavy, that's about as long as this stuff takes at least to get a working set to it. I have it propped up a bit so I can get the top sections here. Get the tops of the handles down inside the hole a little bit. And down inside the mouth. Well, here we are for the last blast. This last main painting. This can's getting a little light, so, but I can't get any more till Monday, so hopefully it'll make it through. Now I did get a little dripping down there, so don't want it to catch. And I'm just going to let it sit now overnight, and we'll see what it looks like tomorrow morning. Well, here we are the next day. I had to do a little touch-up on this guy because when I had it sitting in the down position, some paper got stuck to the holes there. I should have had the center more propped up, so, but I cleaned that off. Overall, the paint job came out pretty good. It's a little weak on the inside of the handles here, but yeah, it still looks a lot better than it did. So first thing we're going to do, of course, is peel off the masking tape carefully. And the sole looks pretty good. Get out the screws. This is where it gets to be aggravating, because I tend to overdo it. Come on. And yes, I do a lot of muttering while working on these things. That one's off. Off. Last thing is to poke the bit of paper out of the hole there. Ooh, what we got here? I just used not its intended purpose, but it will work. Okay. Not much to put this guy back together. First I'm going to put a little oil on the screws. Especially down there where it's a little rusty. And while I got some extra on these screws, I just pick some up on the other screws. There's some waste in it. And then wipe off the excess. And refit the adjuster screws back on. See this? I always make sure the screws travel as far as they can. Put the cap screw back in. I'm standing at a funny angle, that's why I'm having problems here, but we'll get it in. Yep. There she goes. Alright, that's done. Last is the locking screw for the cap. Put the blade back in. Little tweaking of the adjusters here. You don't want this cap screw here to be too tight, but you don't want it too loose either. Yeah, here we have the finished product. Back in the camera. Okay. Again, you know, not perfect, but looks a lot better than it did, and it's pretty much ready to use. The blade's not even that dull, so hey, I've had worse. Well, Saturday morning at the flea market, it was about 28, 29 degrees Fahrenheit. Not much wind, but it sure felt colder than that. And maybe I guess I'm just kind of out of winter mode. I don't know what it is, but pickings weren't strong as far as quantity, but got some decent items overall. Nothing was cheap again, that's for sure, but number 80 cabinet scraper, Stanley with the blade. A V logo, number 51 Spokeshave, a little newer number 51 Spokeshave. A number 151 adjustable Spokeshave, all of which need some clean and restoration. They're probably going to get some painting as well. Got a pair of Chairmaker's spoke pointers. I don't know who made this one. This one's a Stearns, one of the bigger ones. A fairly clean brown and sharp 6-inch combination square. Orphan gimlet point bit, but always can use those. A pretty decent looking Stanley number 60 bench chisel, black handle. Kind of different machinist screwdriver, solid handle. Don't see a maker's name on it, but I'm sure I can stamp something on there to get it some interest. And probably the best find of the day, if you're into these things, is an I. Wilson butcher knife. This has got some scuffs. I don't know if somebody tried to clean it, or if it's just from being sharpened, but handle's not too bad. One rivet might have been replaced at some point, but these guys are getting pretty scarce too. So, and I'm not sure what the market is on them anymore. It's been that long since I've had one, but hey, you know, you take what you get. The one market was open on Easter Sunday, where again it was 27 degrees Fahrenheit and another FYAO morning. But there were some sellers there, including the one guy who comes once or twice a month. He brings a lot of general antiques, but he also brings tools, and he's kind of a friend and always gives me first look at what he's got in his boxes. So I managed to score some pretty good items this trip. At the top here is a late 1800s distant 10-inch backsaw in very good shape. The blade is sharp, fairly clean. About the only note, a small chip off the back of the tote, but still, you don't find them like that too often. A really neat hand-forged slate ripper. This one almost looks like it was forged from a strap hinge or a piece of wagon strap of some type. Got two router planes. This one needs some help. It's a softer wood, but it does have the hardware, but no blade. This one's either mahogany or walnut, and it does have the blade. A Holdfast 1914 patent bevel square. Another brown and sharp 6-inch tri-square, combination square, excuse me. Seems to be raining these guys, but I'll take them. A pretty clean, complete 4-piece Starrett, 12-inch combination square, a 2-pound Lehigh Valley Railroad blacksmith cross-peen hammer. That's going to clean up good. An orphan gimlet. This one might be one of the king cutter ones because of the rosewood handle. Another one to add to the pile. A scraper. I call these gun stock scrapers, but they're used for general purposes. It's got a brass plate on it. Does have the blade. And not sure what the wood is under there, but that one will also clean up pretty nice. And last was a blacksmith flatter. I'll lose that handle because it's wiggling on there anyways. It's got some wear, a little mushrooming, but it's overall it's not too bad. So, hey, for a cold morning and 2 hours of picking, it ain't a bad pile. Hey, Wednesday morning at the flea market, it was about 52 degrees Fahrenheit with just about no wind, and it's warming up to 75 degrees today, and it was just gorgeous. And pickings were strong again. Hey, if it goes on like this all summer, I'll be real happy. So, anyways, got I guess it's about a pound and a quarter cross-peen hammer, a Warrington style hammer, an older one. Under that black paint is a C. Hammond cobbler's hammer. Needs a little help. Older cast iron cobbler's hammer with a funky handle on it. Kind of a neat offset blacksmith tongs. PS&W nail pulling pliers that'll clean up real nice. Really neat 1-foot Lufkin, I think it's an 041 or something, rule with the case. A kind of well used rosewood marking gauge, mortise gauge. Not sure if it's a Stanley or a CS, but the pins are good on it and the adjuster works, so that's a start. Probably the neatest find of the day is I believe these are old sugar dippers. They may be 18th century, they may not, but notice how they're narrowed at the ends. They're not as fancy as some of them, but the style definitely says 18th century to me. We got a pair of CT Company iron clamps, the smaller ones. A whole bag of musket flints. What's musket flint? Let's see if I can open it one-handed. For a flintlock. Yep. All hand-napped and, I don't know, kind of neat. And over in the Stanley pile, we got us a 101 Model Maker's block plane, a 750 half-inch chisel, not too bad, a Type 16 Stanley number 3. That one's not too bad. That'll take some cleaning. Might do that one for the next video or one of the videos. A Stanley 82 cabinet scraper. Needs a little help, but again, not too bad. A 9-inch Sweetheart Tri-Square. And a 42X saw set. So, definitely not a bad day at the market. And that's all for this one, folks. Hope you learned something. And as always, if you like what you're seeing, please hit that subscribe button to be notified when new videos are posted. Thanks for watching, and bye.